Now let's get into trade targets.
You want me to start? We start with offense?
Okay. So we have 4 categories. We kind of
Okay.
broke this down. We took a little bit of inspiration from our Bucks offseason targets that we did for free agency and for the draft. So we looked at roles, and we did offense, defense, starting pitching, and relievers. So we have 4 categories here. So we can go through these. So let's talk offense first. Now, I won't give my guy right away because I am going to go to you first. But when I looked at offense for the Brewers, I think they need a little bit more power, which could possibly become from a resurgent Rhys Hoskins. If we could see William Contreras bounce back, Garrett Mitchell, if he can kind of get into form, I think Garrett Mitchell has some sneaky power. And then Pat Murphy, just unprompted, mentioned Vladimir Guerrero Jr. when discussing Yelich's injury. And he's joking about it, but everybody's kind of like, okay, but I mean, why not? Like, nobody's going to be mad if we trade for Vlad Guerrero Jr. Todd said he's getting the sweet Hawaiian shirts. Nice. Enjoy that. I was at the game earlier this year, so I got the Giannis jersey this year, which I'm pretty happy about. But
nice.
All righty. Todd, have fun. Jake, give me your offensive trade target.
So,
Lefty Killer Gary is another good one too, Wes. That's fair to bring up.
Could be Gary.
Good point.
But it's weird that you bring up Vlad Guerrero Jr., and I am not shitting when I tell everybody this. I wrote this list down before the news of Yelich's injury. I was like, why not? Let's go get Vlad Guerrero Jr. He's a guy that is an arbitration year this year. He had arbitration this year before this season. He got 19.9. He won versus the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays offered 18.5. He won and got 19.9. He has arbitration again this next season. So we would have to pay.
Yep.
And then he's a free agent in 2026. But if you're Ananasio, and no, I'm not going to be one of those people that complains about the money and all that stuff. I'm not going to do that because that's not my job. I'm not going to spend somebody else's money. Okay?
Yep.
What I am going to do is I'm going to say, if you're in a situation right now where you got a young team and you consistently overachieve, you have an opportunity to go get a young guy that you have control of next season. You could see what happens, and maybe he loves Milwaukee and you never really know. Why not? Let's go get him, right? This guy's hitting 296 this year, has a 366 on base percentage, a 488 slug, an 854 OPS. He has 18 home runs and 62 RBIs. And for a guy like me who's an old grandpa and remembers his dad, he was one of my favorite players on the baseball game. I still vividly see the highlight of the ball bouncing on the ground and his dad crushing it for a single. And I was like, yeah, I love that guy. He's awesome. So I would love Vlad Guerrero Jr. on the Brewers. I think that would be absolutely a great fit.
Okay. So the guy that I have is a frequent trade partner of the Milwaukee Brewers from the Tampa Bay Rays. I went with Isaac Paredes.
Oh.
So he's batting .250 as an on-base percentage to .352, slugging .445 for a .798 OPS. He has 16 home runs. He can play both corner infield spots. So he could play first base, or he could back up Joey Ortiz at third base, and obviously DH. So I think having a little bit of positional versatility would be great. He's respectable defensively. He's not great, but he's respectable defensively. And unfortunately, he would command a pretty decent price. He's arbitration eligible starting next year, which could lower the price a smidge. But I think the Brewers would probably rather, or the Rays would probably rather deal with the Brewers than to trade him to, say, like the Yankees and trade him in division or something like that. So I think Isaac Paredes would be a great offensive target for the Brewers.
So I have one more on offense here, and it is also a guy from the Rays. And it was a guy that won the AL batting title last year, and his name is Yandy Diaz. Guy that can play first base and play third base, like you said. He's having a down year this year, so are the Rays. He's hitting 273, 329 on base, 396 slugs, 726 OPS. He has 8 home runs and 46 RBIs. He has lots and lots of postseason experience, which is something that I was taking into consideration on offense. 6 straight years he's been into the postseason. 1 with Cleveland, 5 straight with the Tampa Bay Rays. And I looked at his contract. He's getting paid $8 million this year. He's $10 million in 2025. He has a club option in 2026 for $12 million, and then he's a free agent in 2027. So this would be a move where you trade for him. You wouldn't have to just immediately get rid of him. I think Yandy Diaz makes a little bit of sense. So postseason experience, a guy that can play multiple positions, I can see it.
Okay, I like that. All right, let's go to defense. Who do you think would be a good defensive addition for the Milwaukee Brewers?
This guy is probably my second least likely guy to get traded for on my list, but I did put Luis Robert Jr. on here from the White Sox. He had 38 home runs last year and also had 172 strikeouts, so he's a home run strikeout guy. But in terms of defense and why I picked him, I thought of a guy that would replace the production that we get from Yelich. Yelich is a pretty decent glove and an okay arm, and that's what I would consider Luis Robert Jr. He's in the 65th percentile for arm. He does have tons of speed, so he can make up a lot of ground. And he's in the 80th percentile for range this year for defense. I will say I take some of the stats from the White Sox like a grain of salt because they are just freaking terrible, dude.
They're bad. Yeah,
they're literally on pace, I believe. I read that right. They're on pace to break the loss record, which is ridiculous when you consider that they have two starters on the trade block who are pretty damn good.
Pretty good, yeah.
So, I mean, this year he has 12 home runs and 69 strikeouts.
Yeah.
Nice, but not nice. You know what I'm saying? And he has a hefty contract. $15 million this year, and then he has a club option at 26 and 27 for $20 million. So that's pretty expensive. He literally would be a replacement for Yelich. He has an okay arm, good range, he has some power, and he's expensive. So I mean, when I thought of it, I was like, makes sense to me. I will just give my other defense real quick. The other one is Jazz Chisholm. I don't believe that he's going to be coming to the Brewers. I think a bigger time contender is going to be scooping him up, but just wanted to mention him as a just in case.
Yeah, I've also seen some concerns. Team have concerns about his health and also his attitude. So
yeah,
not necessarily something I'm in a rush to bring to the Brewers. I think you're going to like my guy a lot more. So I looked at the Brewers. They really don't need defensive help.
No.
They're pretty set defensively. They're number 4 in team defensive runs saved, only behind Cleveland, Kansas City, and Toronto. So they also rank number 1 in range runs above average and number 2 in outs above average. So defensively, the Brewers really can't get much better than they already are.
Yeah.
That said, I would ask for the Brewers. This would potentially be a tough addition because there's no guarantee that the Diamondbacks are going to be sellers because they are only a game and a half out of the last wild card spot. But I'm looking at Christian Walker.
Oh, he was on my list last year.
I know he was. That's why I knew you'd like that one. He is number 8 in Major League Baseball total in runs prevented and outs above average. He is the top first baseman in both categories. So my only defensive target would be Christian Walker.
Very nice. Nicely done. I do like that one.
In either one of these situations, if you keep Jake Bauers on the team, you can use him in the outfield while Christian Yelich is coming back.
Yeah.
Okay. Starters. So I'm going to say this. I'm going to go back to Michael's question. Michael asked about Eric Fetty. I posed Eric Fetty and Tyler Anderson to Jake back at the end of May. He did do that. I'm just here to pat myself on the back just as a podcaster. Who am I? I just have a social media thing. I'm not a journalist, whatever else people have tried to say when I say stuff on the internet. But if one of these two happens, I'm going to go back to the back of May and be like, here you go. I said this a long time ago, that these are two guys the Brewers could target. And I'm going to stick with the same two.
Mm-hmm.
So Tyler Anderson is 34 years old. He's a 2.91 ERA, 11.48 WHIP. Does have a $13 million salary for 2024 and 2025.
Yep.
So if I'm the Brewers and I'm considering a trade for Tyler Anderson, I'm asking the Angels to include cash or give him to us for basically nothing.
Yep.
Brewers are going to pick up the salary. Eric Fetty is similar, but at a much lower price at $7.5 million for 2024 and 2025. He has a 2.98 ERA and an 11.13 WHIP, having easily the best year of his career at 31 on the worst team that he's ever played for.
Yep.
So out of these two, I would probably go with Eric Fetty just because he's a little bit younger and a little bit cheaper.
Yep.
So that's the one that I'm looking at. But what else are you looking at for starters?
Yeah, so I also have Tyler Anderson and Eric Fetty. So when it comes to Anderson, he has a 4.4 WAR. We're not big WAR guys. But like you said, he has the 291 ERA. He has 123 and 2/3 innings pitched in 20 games this season, so 89 Ks in there. So he's more of a contact pitcher, but a guy that eats innings, and that's exactly what we need to try to save our bullpen for the postseason. And you go to Eric Fetty, 7-3 record this year, a 4.7 WAR, which is pretty impressive for a starting pitcher on such a bad team. He has a 2.98 ERA. He has 117 and 2/3 innings pitched in 20 games this year as well, and 104 Ks. So he's a guy that can absolutely, as you stand up there and sit you right back down, right? My next guy, I have Jack Flaherty, a guy that's familiar with the NL Central. I think it'd be hilarious to one-up the Cardinals and take a guy that used to play on their team and trade for him this year. He's having a good year for Detroit, 2.95 ERA, a 0.96 WHIP, 106 and 2/3 innings pitched, and 133 Ks. He is a free agent after this year, so I think that's why there's a little bit of an outside chance that the Brewers can kind of scoop in and take him as like a rental this year. Garrett Crochet is my last guy. He's going to probably not be on our team, but I wanted to put him on here just to kind of extend all options. 6-7 record, a 3.07 ERA, 0.97 WHIP, 157 Ks. He still has arbitration for 2 more years, so if you get him, you get him under control for 2 more seasons. So I think that would be exciting. But yeah, 2 guys from the White Sox, a guy from the Tigers, a guy from the Angels. Those are all teams that are selling. And there's not many this year, honestly. It's pretty tight-knit in the NL. A lot of teams still have a chance at the playoffs, so we're going to have to probably look to the AL to try to get somebody.
Yep. Or potentially overpay, which is something I really don't want to do.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Which is why I'm actually pretty on board with my relief pitcher target, who we'll get to in a second. But we have another guy that we both have on the list. So, Jake, what else do you have on Tanner Scott besides the fact that he has a 1.24 ERA, 0.985 WHIP, and 17 saves?
Yeah, he also has 18 holds. He has 44 and 2/3 innings pitched, and he has 51 Ks. This guy throws a fastball at an average of about 97 miles per hour, and he throws a disgusting slider. So, I mean, I don't know what it is. And when I was looking up trade targets, I was doing a bunch of research. I was like, he's a lefty, bro. The Brewers have been doing stuff with lefties this year, i.e. Hudson and Koenig. They've just been doing stuff with lefty guys out of the bullpen. We get Devin Williams back. You then have right-handed Devin Williams. You have right-hander and Payamps, Paguero. I mean, you have McGill. You have all your right-handers. You get this guy that makes the right-lefty thing kind of evened out, and you could just situationally just destroy everybody with our bullpen and our pitching lab.
That's the thing is if you look at, we remember some of the disgusting bullpens where the Brewers could go Corey Knebel to Jeremy Jeffress to Josh Hader, and then we had Corey Knebel and Devin Williams and Josh Hader. We could potentially have this season Brian Hudson, Trevor McGill, and Devin Williams, which would be just disgusting.
You're getting a lot of different pitches.
Dude, when Devin Williams is back and the Brewers can go 7, 8, 9 of Hudson, McGill, and Williams, that is nasty.
Oh, yeah.
And then if you throw Tanner Scott into that mix, you could be like, all right, Colin, go get us 5 innings. And then be like, here you go. Here's Hudson, Scott, McGill, and Williams. Good luck touching a baseball in the next 4 innings.
You're not wrong.
That would be a disgusting thing to have to face in the playoffs. Be like, dude, okay, great. We didn't score on their starter in 5 innings. Now what?
We're gonna have a lot more shutouts.
Right? My dad said you can go back to Trevor Hoffman too.
You could.
Being able to go through those late innings and essentially turn the game over and be like, okay, yeah, we now have an 11% chance of getting a hit in the next 3 innings. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Would be a great thing for the Brewers to have. Now, yeah, John Axford too. The Brewers have a long list of great closers, but having a 3-inning stretch where you go 3 different pitchers and it's just okay, all 3 of them are giving you different things. That's tough.
Tough to deal with for sure.
Now, Tanner Scott is a free agent at the end of the year. So like Flaherty, he is a pure rental.
He is.
So that's That's where we're at with Tanner Scott. Do you have any other relievers?
I do. I have one more.
All right.
His name is Carlos Estevez. He's a right-handed pitcher from the Angels. He has a 1-3 record, a 2.38 ERA, a 0.74 WHIP. He has pitched 34 innings, 32 Ks. He has 20 holds and 20 saves. So that was something that was really important to me. Is I was going through holds and saves leaders, and I looked at his contract. He is 6.7 mil this year and next year, and he is a free agent. Oh no, just this year he's a free agent in 2025. So again, another rental guy, but the Angels are selling. They always sell. They literally only keep Trout hostage, which is really sad, but it is what it is, and there's a reason that Ohtani left.
Okay. So my last one.
I'm excited for this.
I'm so mad that Dominic Cotroneo did this to me, that he posted the advanced stats on this guy. And I guess I'll pat myself on the back a little bit, because he said only baseball sickles are going to recognize who this is.
Yep.
So this player has a 5.56 ERA.
Mm-hmm.
You look at this guy and you're going to be like, oh my God, he's a 5.56 ERA. That's terrible. Why would he be a trade target, much less a good one? This player has a fielding independent pitching, which is essentially ERA minus what the defense does, of 2.59. Talking almost a 3-run difference per 9 innings with fielding independent pitching on his ERA.
He plays for Colorado, doesn't he?
He does play for Colorado.
Oh, I knew it because of the ballpark. I instantly started thinking of Colorado.
So the player is Nick Mears from the Colorado Rockies. I think he's been more unlucky than bad. So his expected ERA is 2.99.
Okay.
That's 2.57 runs per 9 innings below what his actual ERA is.
Jesus, someone cuts it in half, dude. That's insane.
He's okay. Okay, here we go. I'm going to hit you with the stats of this guy when I was like, okay, I see this fielding independent pitching is way different. Like, what's going on here? He's in the 84th percentile for whiffs. He's in the 89th percentile for barrel percentage. He is in the 97th percentile for hard hit percentage.
Oh, yeah.
So that means that only 3% of pitchers in baseball are giving up less hard contact than Nick Mears.
That's crazy, actually.
He has a 96.7 miles per hour average four-seam fastball. His 3 pitches that he uses, slider, fastball, curveball, all have above average vertical movement and below average horizontal movement.
Okay.
And he has a great slider that has a 52.6% whiff percentage.
Love it. Love to see it.
Which is ridiculous.
Uh-huh.
You're talking more than half of the sliders that he throws, guys swing and miss at.
I mean, that's a good thing for us if we get them.
That's insane. 52% of the sliders he throws at are swung at and missed.
Yeah.
That doesn't even take into the accounts that any of them he can land in the strike zone.
Right.
So looking at those advanced numbers and seeing what his expected numbers and his defense independent numbers are, I'm like, this feels like a very sneaky Brewers type pickup. So Nick Mears is arbitration eligible starting in 2025, but I think his ERA would scare people away, and then he'd get to the Brewers and it would be like, oh, the Brewers are at it again. So I'm gonna call a shot here with Nick Mears and say this is one of the guys that the Brewers pitching lab could fix, but I think he's good already and just has a bad ERA because he plays in Colorado where they don't play great defense.
Huh. And the ballpark doesn't really help, but yeah, man. I'm almost as proud of myself for calling the team as you are for calling the player. But immediately when you said the expected, I was like, he's a Rocky, dude. A good call, though. And I will say you should feel good about it because Dominic is a baseball guy. He obviously is like a statistician for the Brewers. I'm pretty sure that's his official title.
Yep.
So the statistician for the Brewers picked the same guy as you, who's just a podcaster, just a guy on the internet. Bro, you should feel good about that. And honestly, everyone who's watching right now should invite everybody they know to watch us because we know our stuff. Okay.
Yeah. So if that happens and people are going to freak out about his ERA and the Brewers trade for him, I'm going to be like, here.
Dude, honestly, just cut this video up and just share it.
Oh, that's absolutely what'll happen. And I'll be like, if we get any of the guys that I'm calling for, especially the ones that I called for like months ago, like I'm going to throw myself a parade. Like that's what's going to happen.
I agree with you.
Okay. All right. Do you have anything else?
Since we're keeping it just Brewers, I got nothing.
Okay. I believe the trade deadline is next Thursday, but I want to make sure.
Yeah, I was gonna look that up too. I was gonna look it up when you were talking about your last guy, but I was like, dude, you've been pumping this guy up all day, man. I gotta hear about this.
Let's see. The trade deadline I thought it was the 2nd, which would be last Friday.
That'd be Friday, wouldn't it?
The trade deadline, July 30th.
Oh.
So it's next Tuesday. Next Tuesday.
Oh.
Next Tuesday at 5:00 Central Time is the trade deadline.